Broadsword calling Danny boy.
Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV. Right, today I'm going to be looking at one of the navcam images from the Curiosity Rover. This one here is from Sol 831. Now, this is a direct video response to a video I just watched by Chris over at Mars Anomalies, and here's his video here. Very interesting video indeed. This is the one I just watched. It's called Lights Found in Mars Curiosity Photo. It's only done about a day ago, and he does point out very clearly in this video that there are some structures in this image, and it's hard to tell what they are, to be honest, and but they're definitely there, and he was bang on the money as usual. He's right on the money. If you want to watch any channel on YouTube by anybody who's good at this kind of image interpretation and enhancing what the intelligent structures in NASA image backgrounds, he's your man. I mean, he's considered an expert in the field. I've been a fan of his for a number of years now, watched all his videos, and if he spots something, then it's probably there. And he's bang on the money again. Now, I do agree. Now, this is the image here. This is the raw image from the NASA website here. I'll have the link in the description. And this is the area we're looking at in this corner. And before you do anything to this image, now I did spot this a couple of days ago, but I was busy working on something else at the time. You can see some structures in here which look like possible buildings or something. They definitely look intelligently designed, that's for sure. So we'll have a look at the image up in my graphics processor here, and I'll show you the raw image in the photo gallery first, and here it is. We'll just zoom in with the raw image. Now you can see some diagonal lines here. Now there's a lot of these diagonal lines on Mount Sharp. This is the bottom of Mount Sharp here. Now this used to be a riverbed down here, and a lot of Mount Sharp looks artificial. It looks a bit like some of that weird sort of fake concrete kind of plastic stuff they use in theme parks to make wannabe buildings from. You know, when you go to Disneyland or whatever, and you go up to the bar, and they have a theme bar, you know, and you look at the outside of the building, and it's made of this kind of resin, this kind of plasticky resin, which they use to make these fake buildings with. And Mount Sharp really does look like that. If you look at some of the higher res images of Mount Sharp, of the whole of Mount Sharp, it looks like someone's just tipped a load of that stuff over it, and it really does look totally artificial. And it's also a symmetrical shape. If you look at the aerial shots from above, it's shaped just like an Xbox 360 controller, which look kind of like a Delta Wing aircraft or something. So it's a very, very odd structure, and it certainly is artificial, at least in part. That is for sure, and even people at NASA have said that. So there we go. So there's that image. Now I've got it up in PaintShop Pro here. Let me get this up here, and I've done some enhancements on it. Now I haven't gone too far with this because unfortunately, this is being a navcam photo. You've got a 1 meg image, so you haven't got a great deal to work with here, because basically it's not a very big image to start with. So what I did straight away, I got the raw image here. There's the raw image. And it's just over 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. So it's not, you know, it's literally 1 meg. And you're never going to get a great deal of detail out of this background here because there simply isn't enough pixel information. So I'm not going to go too far with these enhancements because there's only so much you can get out of this. But what I did straight away was enlarge it to 1920 by 1920, and I've upped the DPI. Let's just hang on a minute. Let's select that, Shift S. Now if you look here, the resolution, I've upped it to 2000. Now it normally comes at 200. I just whacked a 0 in there, and I've upped the size to 1920 by 1920. That just makes it a workable size, but I've actually increased the pixel density in there by a factor of 10. So that makes it better to work with. It actually smooths the image out slightly. as you can see here, when I zoom in, it doesn't pixelate too much. It still does, but it's not so bad. Whereas when I zoom into this one, you can see the pixelation there a lot more. Okay, so right, let's get on with it. I've just done some basic outlines here of what Chris was pointing out in his video, and he was bang on the money. It looks to me, now he said these could be buildings or collapsed buildings. I absolutely agree. But I actually think, now if you look at this overall shape here, let's get the hand tool there so you can see that. If you look at this shape here, which I've drawn around, it looks like a boat or a ship. And these diagonals coming this way look like they're on the deck of a ship almost, and the ship is listed over, and it kind of looks like the ship's kind of slipped or crashed into this area here. And now this bit sticking out here, this darker brown bit here, looks to me like a load of crap and sand and whatever that's kind of been blown up against the side of this ship or boat or whatever it is, and is kind of half buried the front end. Now, it's a bit hard to get your head around this, and I'm still struggling with it a bit, because it may be more than one thing here. This long, lighter structure here, which is very reflective, these parts here are much brighter than the stuff in its immediate vicinity. And Chris said that it looks like there's lights on this surface here, and it actually does. I agree. But what I think that might be is metal. And because this is leaning towards us at a certain angle, this could be like a flat deck, almost a flat deck here. And this darker bit here looks like it could have been part of a superstructure, which is now broken off. And what we're seeing is some of the internal structures here of what would have been like a citadel structure on top, like you would get on a battleship or something like that. I could be wrong. I mean, this may just be some sort of building that's slipped down and been in a landslide, and it just happens to look a bit like a boat shape here because of the angle we're at. I don't know. I could be wrong. But to me, I'll show you some more enhancements here. So I've outlined it, and I've switched it to negative here, so that you can actually see what I'm getting at here. Now you can see clearly there's some square rectangular structures here at an angle. Now obviously this is inverted, so these are not holes, probably not, unless the whole picture has been inverted. These are light reflective areas here, these dark bits. But you can see a structure here which looks like it's got straight edges and a right angled corner here. And this pile of crap here may well be another boat or something, but I've got a feeling this is just where a load of sand is blown up against the front of this possible ship, just the hull of a ship, and it's kind of just leaning on and blown up against it, and it's got a sort of transparency to it, which sand does. Now the thing with a lot of this stuff, when it's half buried, if it's got a sort of light covering of sand, in some areas, because you have a hot metal object, maybe steel, possible steel structure here. Now, when you enhance the image and start playing with the contrast, what you can do is you can actually see through the sand and see the structure behind the sand, because the sand is not the same density as the metal, and it's almost like with an infrared image, where when you enhance it, you can see through stuff. You see through water, see through sand, and obviously if the sand is extremely thick or very dense, like it is just here, then you're not going to see anything. But at this bit here, you can see this smooth edge here. Now this to me looks like part of the front of the boat here, and there would be like a rail going along this edge. Now, as Chris very cleverly pointed out, when you look at the source image, let's go back to the main source image here. Where is he? There he is, right. Now, if you look really carefully, you can tell that some of this wannabe mountain behind is actually overlapping this part of the foreground here, the middle ground here, and there are parts of this coming across and over this edge. So this dark area here is actually part of this structure behind. they are one and the same thing. Now, bear in mind that a lot of this is buried, and there's loads of sand kind of blown up against this. It could have been there millions of years, could have been there 50 years, who knows. But there is definitely something interesting going on here. Now, what I'm going to do, I'll just pick one of the enhanced versions here, and we'll do it with this one to start with. Now, all I've done with that is I've changed the color temperature so you can see what I'm getting at here. And let's have the sharpen brush. Now, if you look carefully, you can see that there's a nice swept curve there, and there's some weird details going on here. Now, when you go in and sharpen this up, it looks to me like this edge is actually part of the structure behind, and this is kind of crumpled and covered in dust and sand. So this may well be this light edge here, part of the structure behind, and this dark bit could be the front end of the hull, or possibly the back end. We don't know which way around this thing is, but let's say this is the front, because it does look like it's pointing in that direction. So some of this detail in here could well be like a handrail or like a rail that you would get along the top edge of a ship. Okay, so, and what I did, I flipped that to negative again, so you can see what I'm getting at here. Now I've just drawn on this bit here, I've drawn around this what may be remains of a superstructure here, and what we could be seeing here are the internal structures or remains of a superstructure that has been torn off or collapsed. It could even be a building, or this could all be a building that's slipped. But what got to me was this really pointy sort of curve that comes right up, and it's very straight at the top, and it comes down a little bit, and then it goes along. Now this may have go further up here, where this dark line is. Not really quite sure, but I'm not gonna spend too long sharpening this up, because the image size is small. It's only a 1 meg image. Never going to get a load of detail out of this, so it really isn't worth it. But what you can do is get the basic shapes and an indication of what may be there. And you've got, hang on, let's deselect that a minute so I can sharpen this one. Right. Yeah, I mean, it looks boat shaped, and if you look at these dark internal parts, they almost look like hatches or something on the deck of a ship, or perhaps even a gun emplacement where the guns come off. The gun could have fallen off here. Now, I have done other videos where I found what looked very much like large battleships at the bottom of Mount Sharp, and I've been sort of slated a bit for some of them, because I may have gone a bit far with some of them, and I'll show you one of them here. This one is getting a lot of attention at the moment. It's called Mars Navy Battleship Bismarck. Has large cannon. And now this is definitely a boat or ship, but I do say very clearly in this video that a lot of the superstructure above may not be that shape, because when you're dealing with stuff in the background of these poor quality images, I mean, this was a lot higher quality, this image, because it was a much larger format image to start with. It's almost impossible to tell exactly what shape was on top of this thing, but it's definitely got a hull to it, and it's definitely got these portholes. I'll let that play through a little bit while I explain it. So even though I did go a long way and did a lot of work sharpening this thing up, I do say very clearly in this video that it may not be exactly that shape on top. In fact, I've probably said it quite a few times, but the hull is definitely there, and in other parts around this area of Mount Sharp, you can see the hull before you do anything. You can see this line underneath and this lovely swept curve there, which is of a manufactured object. And this superstructure on top may be a completely different shape, or may not even be there at all, some of it. But there are parts to it. And it's very, very difficult when you're working with low quality images to actually interpret what you're looking at sometimes, because there simply isn't enough information to work with. So there we go. We have this one here that looks very much like a ship, but it may not be. It could be a collapsed building. But when you look at the overall shape, it really does look like a ship that's listed over onto one side and is partially buried at the front in sand and rock. So what can I say? Thanks to Chris for putting out that video. It actually inspired me to do another one on this area. I haven't done one on this particular area for a while. I'll show you the other enhancements I've got. I mean, it's never going to be great, this thing, because the image quality is too low to start with. But if I sharpen some of it up, you get an idea that there is something here, definitely something here. And I mean, this may even stick up some of this superstructure. I don't know. It's too vague. It's too milky and vague in the background to get any real detail from. But what we're looking at here is overall shapes, and there's some definite symmetry in there. And you can even see that in the raw image before you do anything. So let's have a look at the raw image again. You can see these shapes here already. So there's definitely something there. It may not be a ship, may not be buildings, but there's certainly symmetrical structures in there. And I haven't gone as far as this one, where I probably over sharpened it in places and the image sort of broke up a bit. But it really does depend on the quality of the image to start with, and we do struggle, us Mars Anomaly kind of guys, to interpret what we're seeing in a lot of these images, because they are very low quality, a lot of them. So there you go. Is it a ship? Are they buildings? What do you think? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you soon.